So why do the DLC emblems have such strange passives? Now, some of the passives are good, I'll give them that, but some of the abilities on the DLC rings are just weird. So let's look at like Hector, for example. So we have a quick riposte. This one is decent, basically lets you double on counterattack, even if you wouldn't, as long as you meet an HP threshold. So this is a decent passive. We have adaptability, which is not the best thing, because you have to get hit first, and then you get +2 defense or res, depending on what you get hit by. But it's, you know, random. It's a little bit of a defensive boost, whatever. Then we have heavy attack. This kind of encourages using heavier weapons. You get +5 damage. Kind of strange. Piercing glare. Consume 20% of your max HP to prevent foes from moving by you. This is like, I don't know, I feel like this is like weird Ike. Every time I use this, it always just feels like weird Ike. So Ike has like Resolve, where you get like +5 defense and res, or +7 at Resolve Plus when you're at 75% HP or lower. So as you're tanking, you become tankier, and then he also can have damage. You get Impenetrable, which gives you +30 defense and res, and some classes have a modifier. This is worse than taking half damage, because taking half damage halves all damage. But then we have Storm's Eye, which is okay. It gives you immunity to break, sword axe only, counterattack, you follow up. Enemies cannot follow up. So I feel like Hector is kind of like weird Ike, or like spicy Ike in a way, where it's just like Ike but strange, and it just keeps getting weirder from here. So like Chrom, surprise attack. If you have an avoid bonus from terrain, the foe cannot counterattack. This seems like it could be good, but it's so situational. And also consider that if you're attacking from an avoid tile, you're probably not going to get hit because of avoid tanking. So it's just a weird ability. Raleigh Spectrum is straight up overpowered, I will say that. This is definitely one of the best passives. Brute Force is very strange. It increases your crit damage in a game where crits are going to one-shot, right? So increasing crit damage when it's super easy to damage fix, and most crit builds one-shot anyways. This is fine, I guess, but it doesn't feel really very relevant. Charm, this is interesting, but it only affects this unit. So like if you attack, the chain attacks have 90% accuracy instead of 80. That's decent for chain attack spam, but chain attack spam is usually consistent enough that it doesn't really matter. Other half is interesting. Getting +10 magic obviously damage fixes you, and you getting speed and dex is also nice on this, but the backup thing, like, I don't know, I feel like these abilities just are not as high impact as base game abilities. Like Lyn can create doubles, which are like 4 lightning rods that waste 4 enemy turns. Corrin can freeze things, so like that's what we're comparing it to. Getting +10 magic is great, but there's other damage fixing emblems, and usually +10 magic is overkill. If you're on like Levin Sword, it already has high enough might. Speaking of Levin Sword, Giga Levin Sword uses physical attack power. Chrom feels like he's just like a bunch of random things. He has like the surprise attack, he has like support, he has like crit thing, he has like chain attack thing, he has like a personal chain attack that boosts magic, then he has like a physical attack. He feels like he doesn't know what the hell he wants to do. But he's definitely one of the better ones. Camilla, here's where things get weird. I think Camilla is one of the worst ones. I think Camilla is legitimately about as bad as Leaf, but she feels good to use because when you use DLC, you have to do Divine Paralogs, and Divine Paralogs scale to your level. So no matter what level you are, they will scale to your highest unit's levels. Meaning that when you do them, and you kill the 100 or so enemies on these maps, you're gonna power level. So really what's happening is the DLC emblems generally are worse than the base game emblems. Like Hector, I would say, is worse than Ike. Camilla is worse than Corrin. Chrom. So I stopped using certain items. So Chrom, I would say, is worse than Byleth as a support, because you get dancing, like you get the AoE dance, and that's better than Raleigh Spectrum. Now Raleigh Spectrum is good, but refreshing 4 units is better. So, and also Siege Thyrsus is probably better than anything this can produce, because you're already going to be over leveled because it's DLC. But Camilla, the veins can be decent, especially on certain things. This vein on flying is terrible. Decisive Strike just feels weird on her kit. Like, if you land a critical, you deal 5 damage after combat. So like it relies on criticals for some reason, and then it scales up to 10 long term. She gets Soar, so when you're engaged, you can fly. and you get move +2. This is actually legitimately good on Sadal, because then you can get a Flying Dancer, and flying gets an extra move. But it doesn't really do much. I'm really just using Camilla here for speed fixing, like just for free speed, because in this playthrough I dropped Lucina, Lyn, Ike, Byleth, and Corrin. I don't use their engravings or their passives, so I had to figure out, you know, ways to get speed, so I use Star Sphere early. Now Star Sphere obviously is overpowered. If you Star Sphere units early, they will become broken. Getting +3 to all your stats, it turns out, is really good. Who would have guessed? The equivalent of using 1.5 stat boosters in every stat is broken, and also getting build. But like Soar is fine, I guess, but Decisive Strike is just weird. Dark Inferno is decent. It can delay. It's kind of like Roy, but without staying power. So let's get Anna's level up here. Let's get her bond level up with Camilla. Let's go do this. But one thing I'm noticing while doing this run is that there are moments where it's like, oh, I wish I had Corrin here to freeze, or oh, I wish I had Lyn here to make doubles, or, you know, to Moology or something, or to Astra something at range. Like, you get these free kills on Lyn every time you engage with her, where you just get to kill a flyer or something at range for free because she has this long range attack. So if you use it on the right unit, you can just get kills on enemies who are across the map, or aggro bosses, or whatever you want to do. Like, Lyn trivializes Corrin's paralog because you can immediately aggro Corrin before she sets the water on fire and removes the water, so then she kind of isolates herself and you can just kill her. She trivializes a lot of maps. The doubles are really good, the speed fixing is good, her passives are insane. She just brings a lot to the table. Oh yeah, detoxify, this is the other thing that's weird. Like, Camilla has these weird like abilities that are just like, why? Oh yeah, and then Corrin debuffs too, like getting debuffing bosses is so huge. Like having like 2 Draconic Hex units, like a Corrin with it and then a passive, like someone with it as a passive, you can debuff huge threats, set up easy kills on bosses, you know, reduce the enemy boss's speed, reduce the damage of the boss, reduce their defensive stats so that they take more damage. Comparing those, it's just not even close. Now Tiki, I dropped Lucina for Tiki. Honestly, Lucina's better. Bonded Shield setup is way better than Tiki because you have an invincible, like an unhittable, you have an avoid tank, and then you have your bonded target, and you have an unhittable unit that never gets attacked, and an invincible unit who, when they do get attacked, they one round whatever attacks them. And it's really easy to set up. The Res Stone is nice to a degree. Some of the other Tiki abilities are fine. Now I just threw Tiki on Goldmary, like as soon as I got her. I've been using Tiki on Chloe, and whenever Chloe engages, she actually loses damage. The Steel Lance out damages the other thing. The Lance power barely helps because it's like +2, but I put her on Erica, which Erica, honestly, like Erica Tamara is way more tanky than most units on Tiki. In this case, I'm running Tamara on Chrom just for like speed, dex, and strength, just for fun. It's just something different. She's on a strength dex build, so she just goes for killing with might, and if she sandstorms, it's just a bonus. Anna, she's just kind of doing whatever. She's just using this for speed fixing. But detoxify, like these are just weird. Like these don't help at all. Like why would I ever want this? Like this does, you can kill like Roy units like Marnie or whatever if you crit, but you have to crit for it to even happen. It'd be different if it just always happened, like after combat. You just do, like why does it have to be after a crit? Like why do I have to crit in order to activate this? It's not, like when I hit something with Draconic Hex, it just debuffs them. I don't even need to hit them. You can hit for 0 damage, it'll debuff them. You can miss, and it'll deal 0, it'll debuff them. As long as you initiate combat, they get debuffed. And the fact that this needs a crit and is so like conditional is just bad. And like detoxify cures poison at the start of turn. This is just so niche. It's just so weird and obscure. I'm gonna go into the passives, don't you worry. Okay, let's go over Edelgard briefly. Now Edelgard is definitely one of the better ones for sure. You have the Raging Storm, the weapon sync damage increase, and then House Unite. This is probably one of the best emblems from the DLC. I would say Tiki is as well, like Tiki because of the Star Sphere, to give Star Sphere to your units, and just to make like a super unit who can still deal relevant damage even if they have terrible stats. Like Tiki and Edelgard, definitely top tier. Camilla, bottom tier. Chrom, like mid tier. He has some like Rally Spectrum on a unit is really good if you have like utility. I actually have it on my Fram. She has Rally Spectrum, so she can give everyone stats. But I honestly, like, the way I play, I never use it because my units are always like holding aggressive positions, enemy phasing, and like diving things. So like I don't really have opportunities to use it. But if you turtled more, I could see it being good. Or if you set it up more and played around it, I guess. What else? Chrom is okay. Hector feels kind of bad, I'm not gonna lie. Like, he feels like a bad Ike. Like, Ike just makes you super tanky. And Hector just has all these weird abilities that I don't think really play into things very well. Now, I understand how to, like, leverage things like heavy attack, and how to leverage things like quick riposte, but I just don't see it being very good. Like, if you already double, it doesn't do anything. It's basically useless. So you have to specifically be on a character who doesn't double. And then with heavy attack, so when making a physical attack. So this does work on enemy phase. So you could combine heavy attack with like a heavy weapon that weighs you down. The only issue though is if you can't tank the might of the incoming attacks, you will get doubled because you're basically banking on being low speed in a way, or reducing your speed by 5, which, you know, on an emblem that doesn't fix speed or build, well, I guess it does fix build, my mistake. On an emblem that doesn't fix speed, you're going to be -5 speed in order to leverage this. So I could see like some kind of like Tomahawk axe power build where you get doubled on purpose with low speed. Maybe like a general, so you could quick riposte and then mid tank, like mitigation tank. But outside of that, I guess that's the use case. It wouldn't really help with Storm's Eye because like the immunity to break would be redundant, but I could see that being decent. With Impenetrable, you would be pretty high. I mean, you'd be... The issue, though, is you'd be so high defense that you wouldn't get attacked. And that's really why Ike is good, because you can use him to take... Like, taking half damage, you still take some damage, enemies will still attack you. If you take no damage, they won't attack you. So that could be an issue for the build. So I could see how it could work, but I could also see how it could fail. Like, when you have too high avoid on avoid tanks type of thing. Then for Tiki, it's just always good, I would say. I'm not using Veronica and the other one this run just for like balance purposes, to try to do as few divine paralogs as possible. Let's look at some of the passives though. This is where things get interesting. So the first thing is that like some of these are so expensive you're never going to be able to afford them. 8k SP to max out strength dex is just absolutely insane. 6k to get strength dex 4 is also insane. I got really lucky with wells this playthrough and I got a bunch of expert books, but it's like a 30% chance at tier 4 well. So 1 in 3 wells should produce an expert book on average. And that's, you know, this is an insane amount of SP. It is good. Weapon sync is good too, especially if you use the right emblem and the right unit, because then you always are plus like 7 damage, but it's very expensive. It's literally more expensive. Well, it's not more. It's the same cost as like Lance, Axe, or Sword Power 5, and it does less damage. So consider that. So this has potential, but it's very expensive. This has potential, it's very expensive. The guard skills are terrible. Assembly Gambit is a meme. Lineage is a meme. And then if we go over to like Camilla, Speed Res, like if you don't have normal Speed Plus, like Speed Res and Speed Dex are like the only things you can get for speed fixing really in DLC land. And it's just way more expensive than Speed Plus. Like Speed Plus 3 is I think 500 SP. Speed Res plus 3, 1200. If you want to get plus 5, it's 2k for Speed plus 5. It's 4.8 for Speed Res or Speed Dex plus 5. Then you can unlock Decisive Strike, which I don't know why you would. It's terrible. 10 damage after combat only matters for killing Marty when she has Roy. Maybe this is for LTCers. I don't know. I don't even think they use it. Like all the guard skills are terrible. Detoxify is a meme. Like, why would you want to cure poison? Like, how often is poison this much of an issue? Surprise attack, way too expensive, not as good as it seems. Rally Spectrum is decent. The cost on this is weird. So you get like +1 more range for 500 more SP. This is like a good value. And then Speed Dex, very expensive. I already have some of it inherited. But this is like your only source of like speed increase. Strength Defense, very expensive. Anything with strength in it, the devs think is like solid gold. You could get Gentility. This is the funny part. You could get Gentility, take -5 damage from all sources, including like enemy engage attacks and all this other stuff. Doesn't reduce chain attacks though. You can get -5 damage from Gentility, +5 damage with bravery with all weapon types. And as long as the Erica unit is always engaged, which, you know, if they have a brave weapon, they can just be, they'll be disengaged for like 1 or 2 turns at max. So you'll have like almost like 80% uptime of -5 damage, +5 damage. And that is, I think, like 3 or 4k SP versus this 8.4k adaptability plus. Just, it's terrible. It's not worth it. +3, so you have to get hit first, and then if you get hit by physical, +3 defense, get hit by magic, +3 res, and then of course, you know, axe guard. It's terrible. Don't get it. For these, Geosphere is actually good. Geosphere could be good. You could use this on utility units to boost defense. This is one of the abilities that I actually like, that I think is like relevant. Life Sphere could be good. It heals status effects and also heals you, but in a lot of cases, when you want to remove status effects, you want to remove them to then do something. So like if you're frozen and silenced on like Ivy or something, and then you wait in Life Sphere, guess what's going to happen next turn? You're going to get frozen and silenced. So it's like removing the statuses is a nice bonus, but you usually want to remove the status and then move, get to safety, kill something, whatever. Star Sphere is definitely overpowered. Putting this even on units, you know, putting this on units even in mid game is enough to get them like +3 build, speed, strength, dex, like everything. Like you need 20 level ups on this on fixed mode and you get +3 to all your stats. Absolutely cracked. Especially if you use it on early units, because you can get Tiki as early as like chapter 6 or 7. So, but yeah, like a lot of them kind of feel like Byleth, where like they have like weird passives that suck. Tiki has good passives, Hector has terrible passives, Chrom has, you know, 2 good passives, I would say. Camilla, I think all of her passives are legit bad. Speed res can be useful on a tank that needs res, but that's it. But who has like 4.8k SP when you just want speed +5? Like you could just use a pure water. And then Edelgard has like 2 average passives for damage fixing that are extremely expensive, and you probably aren't going to be able to run these. Like 6k for +4 strength is just insane. Now I did unlock that on Tamara because I got a bunch of, you know, I got lucky. The previous run I did, I got unlucky, bad, you know, no expert books. This run I'm just swimming in expert books. I just keep getting 1k SP books, so I'm starting to throw passives on these units. I did just get Sigurd back, so it's more lance powers. But so far, honestly, like I do miss the base game emblems, and even though my units are overleveled, the mechanics the base game emblems provide are just such a huge advantage. Lucina is definitely better than Tiki. Lyn is way better than Edelgard. Ike, because like Edelgard, you can do combos, and if you have Byleth, you can have that unit attack 3 times, which is huge value. But the first attack is an axe attack, so sometimes it misses, and then you can basically Houses Unite and then do like an atrocity afterwards to burn through all of your turns. But Lyn has more than just, you know, she speed fixes you, you can break certain maps with Astra, you can kill things at range with Astra, you get access to a bow to one-shot, which you do with the Edelgard as well. But I think Mulajir gives you +5 speed, which is pretty cracked. You can make the clones, I don't know if I mentioned that already, where you can just use those to enemy phase pretty well. Ike is definitely better than Hector. Taking half damage on anything increases its survivability. You also get crits for free when your health gets low. You get better tanking as your health gets low. Great Aether can multiple AoE with like Silver Great Axe. Byleth is definitely better than Chrom. 4-way dance is used for like pretty much every LTC. I'm pretty sure it's used for all of them, if not some, like most of them, because it's just so powerful, because you can refresh multiple units and easily set up kills and like warp combos and stuff like this. And then Corrin is definitely better than Camilla. Like being able to freeze is just way bigger value. The debuff is huge. Quality time is nice. Like you have a dancer, he dances, he quality times. It's 5 or 10 health, and it's cheap too. You just have to get the bond level. So I feel like the base game's passives are just better. Like Erica is way better than any of the DLC damage ones. Like she damage fixes, like Lunar Brace is super cracked, and same thing with Bravery. Like it's so easy to damage fix with Erica. She's good on literally anything. Yeah, like Quality Time, Draconic Hex, these are just better passives. Pair Up is decent if you want to like tank chain attacks, stuff like this. I feel like a lot of the DLC are like Byleth, you know, in terms of passive quality. Most of them are just either redundant or useless, and in terms of actual emblem quality, honestly, I think people's perception of DLC is skewed because of how much overleveling occurs just from doing Divine Paralogs. If Divine Paralogs didn't overlevel you, and if the DLC emblems replaced powerful base game emblems, you would feel the difference in power, like you would see it better. But because Divine Paralogs will always overlevel you, unless you use a different team to use them, you won't notice it as much because you're like, oh wow, Camilla lets me fly, wow, and that this unit's cracked in 1 rounds. But it's probably cracked in 1 rounds because it's overleveled, to be honest. So that's an issue with balance that probably won't be addressed, unfortunately. So yeah, just something I noticed. Even though these units are overleveled, I feel like Chapter 17 was harder than normal because I didn't have Corrin. Again, I couldn't just freeze the bosses like I usually do. Because I kind of realized that halfway through it, where like I'm fighting the bosses, or like near the end rather, and I'm like, oh, all right, I'll just snap freeze the. I'm like, oh wait, I can't snap freeze the bosses. I'll just snap freeze Vale and Ivy's dad or whatever, and you can't. Or oh, I'll just delay them with fire. Oh, I'll just do this. Like you can't. You just can't. You can't snap freeze them unless you also are using Corrin. Now, that's if you replace the emblems. However, if you were to replace the emblems, that would be a more balanced implementation of these emblems, so you can actually see their true power. So like, even with overleveled units that are all star sphered, these emblems are performing worse than units that have worse stats but just have better emblems. So it's, I don't know, I thought it was an interesting thing. Now obviously the Tamara still tanks, the Baron's like 1 rounds consistently, Chloe 1 rounds consistently, Anna and Alir all 1 rounding consistently. Gold Mary I just got, so I'm getting her online. I'm giving her speed res instead of speed dex so she can tank magic better. I am going to make her an off tank. She is on Tiki temporarily just to level up and get star sphere levels. So this is another thing you can do in DLC is pass Tiki around. So like this Chloe, she already has pretty high stats, I would say. She has 8 build on Griffin, which shouldn't happen until she's like, I don't know, level 40 something. If it even happens. I think she's like 5% build growth, and she's like 6 build on Griffin, so getting 2 points of build, 20 level ups equals 1 build at 5% growth on fixed mode, so she has her build early. With that being said, she's 1 rounding consistently, she's very fast already. This is after Chapter 17, she's 32 speed. After Chapter 17, 32 speed. She's gonna double. This doubles some endgame enemies, most endgame enemies. So by the time we get to endgame, she's gonna be, you know, like 40 speed or something, maybe even at cap. I don't even know what the cap is on this class. But after doing this run, it just really shows me how bad a lot of the DLC emblems are. And obviously the best one is definitely Edelgard. But even then, debuffing a boss. Like if I had to choose between Edelgard and Corrin, or like Edelgard and even Erica, I would rather have Erica. Because if I throw Erica on certain units, like Tamara, they can just like go fight a boss by themselves and be fine. And like she was actually tanking Vale, and she's 26 defense. She literally was just 1v1ing Vale. And like Vale's Lodestar did like 18 damage to her. It was really funny. So, and she wasn't even like chain guarded or like tonicked. She was just as she is right now. She was 1v1ing Vale. It's just very funny. But yeah, that is it for this one. I just wanted to talk about the disparity in strength of the DLC emblems, even with overleveled units that are probably 5, maybe 7 levels higher than they should be normally because of the Divine Paralogs, struggle to, you know, solve a boss fight because of the lack of utility. Like if I have Byleth, I can Goddess Dance. 4 units. So if I need to set up a kill, I can easily do that. Like I can kill a bunch of enemies, put my dudes in a plus shape, and then dance the middle, and also speed buff them and whatever. And that's way better than Chrom. Like Rally Spectrum is better than the buff aspect of Byleth, but the Goddess Dance is just so fundamentally broken. Like refreshing 4 damage carries is a guaranteed boss kill for sure. So even just having Byleth instead of Chrom in that boss fight would have made it much easier, even having Corrin instead of Camilla. Excuse me. Throat got dry for a second. But yeah, that's it for this one. I just want to talk about the difference between the DLC emblems in strength and the base game emblems. And honestly, the base game are stronger, but the DLC might feel stronger because your units are overleveled and potentially star tiered. So yeah, definitely like and subscribe. Thanks for checking this out. Peace.